everyone. Right, welcome to the Build Better Products with Better Relationships panel with Jeremy Miller. So excited you guys could all join us. So I'm going to let Jeremy take it away with his introduction. And then for the workshop, if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. And then Jeremy will help answer them. All right, Jeremy, the floor is yours.
So let me share my screen here. Share my screen. I'll do the desktop, and then I'll present. And hopefully this goes full screen. Can you guys see the presentation in the background? Or did the presentation? Cool. Yeah. All right, awesome. So my name's Jeremy. I am what we call an experienced architect at GE Aviation, and it's a relatively newer term. It's something I don't think a lot of people have heard before, but an experienced architect is kind of like a step, I guess, above product designer. It's someone who kind of connects the threads and makes sure all the things are connected where they need to be, so that the end users have a consistent experience. So that's my title. I don't do much design anymore, actually. I'm kind of, I guess, moved past that in my career, so I'm now like basically meetings all day. So I'm basically a professional meter now. But I've been doing this for design for about like 15 years or more, and then UX design specifically for 10. So I've been doing this for quite a while, and what we're going to talk about today are the things that you will not learn in school. I can almost guarantee that. This idea of building relationships with your team. This is something that you learn in school if someone tells it to you, or you learn it on the job. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I actually changed the name of this last minute from building better products to delivering better products, because I think that's really at the end of the day what this is about. It's not really building anything. It's about delivering whatever the things that we work on, and as UX designers, we're usually not the ones doing the coding and things like that. So we need to work with our team. So delivering better products through better relationships. So I'm going to ask, I guess I kind of preface this so you might know what it is, but I'm curious. I'm going to ping the room. I'd love to know what you guys think. What is more important than designing great products? What do you guys think? I'm curious. Does anybody have? I can't see the chat. I'll give you a hint. It's not design. It's not color theory. It's not learning how to use your prototyping tools. The most important thing is actually delivering great products. Delivering great products is the key here, right? It doesn't matter how great our design is. It doesn't matter how brilliant our new interface is, or our component that we designed, or whatever that. It doesn't matter. None of that matters if you can't actually get it delivered, if you can't get it shipped, if you can't get it to production. So, if you're not the only person on your team, which is more than likely the case, you need everyone on your team. And this is just one small example of what, a pod might look like. And even then, you might be working with multiple people in the same role, but you've got your software architect, you've got front-end devs, back-end devs, you've got the QA people, you've got UX researchers, you might have other designers that you're working with, you might have, a scrum master, product manager, all these things, product owner. If you work at a bigger company, you might have multiple pods with multiple people that you need to work with on a daily basis. And, these are the people that you have got to figure out how to influence to get the things that you care about done, right? If you can't work with these people, guess what's not going to happen? Users don't get great products, right? Because you're not going to deliver those products. I got bad news for all the UX designers. And UX designers, we all like to think we're like the most important part of a software team. It is not about us. It is not about us. It is about the users at the end of the day. So all those things that we think are the most important things, we got to just get over that and figure out how be really pragmatic to get those things to the users. So I want to introduce Jan. So Jan has this chronic disease that she's been living with her whole life. And Jan uses an app to track her medication, right? Jan just wants an app that's easy to use, right? Jan, you can see she's a little bit older. She's not really familiar with, all the high-tech gadgets and all these new gestures and things like that. Jan just wants an app that works. That's all she cares about. She wants to go see her grandkids and be able to track her medication and stuff. And these are the people that we need to care about, right? So I want you to meet Fred. All right, Fred is a really great designer. He is wonderful. One of the best. Graduated top of his class. He designs healthcare software. He's super passionate about design. Fred has all the answers. He knows everything. He makes sure everyone knows that he is the designer, right? He's super difficult to work with. Nobody likes working with Fred. I can promise you that. I want you to meet Amy. Also talented designer. Also designs healthcare software. Also passionate about design. Amy knows that she does not have all the answers, right? And she encourages collaboration. Amy gets along really well with her team. Guess which one's going to be more successful? Amy. I can guarantee you that, without a doubt. All right, so here's the thing. Fred's constantly butting heads with his coworkers. They've started to leave him out of important conversations. They've stopped asking his opinion. They think Fred is a jerk. Fred is losing his seat at the table. And as a UX designer, if we want to deliver great products, we have got to have a seat at that table, right? The proverbial table. So Fred has some really brilliant ideas, but Fred cannot seem to ship valuable features. Why? I don't know why. Let's explore it. Amy makes it easy for her coworkers to work with her. They always include her in important decisions. They always get her opinion. They think Amy is wonderful. Amy has a seat at the table, right? So when important decisions are made, Amy's going to be the one that influences that final product and make sure Jan has a really great experience, and Fred is not. So Amy has some really brilliant ideas, and Amy easily ships those valuable features. Oh, Amy. By the way, Amy is my wife, so that's why I use this. My wife is also great. All right, so here's the thing. Same hard skills. Talented designer, passionate about design. They both know how to use Figma. They both know how to use Sketch. They both know all about color theory and typography and blah, 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 right? Different soft skills, right? One gets along really well with their team, the other doesn't. Fred and Amy are both great designers. Fred can't influence his team. He has very little impact. Amy is able to influence her team. Much larger impact. Go, Amy. All right, so what made Amy so successful? So here's a few things. All right, these are your key takeaways here. Amy fostered empathy within her team. Now, one of the things that UX designers, when we learn about UX research and all this stuff, is empathy for the users. And what I hear so seldom is empathy for your coworkers, for your team members, right? This is like, a lot of times we hear UX designers, oh, they just last minute, they change something, blah, blah, blah. Well, why? Find out why. What's going on with them? Was there something else that happened where they can control those things, It's not always, we shouldn't always be fighting with people. So it's regular one-on-ones. She didn't skip the small talk. When she had meetings, she asked people about their day, about their weekend. Oh, how was your weekend? How are your kids? Oh, it was your birthday. You had a good birthday? You going on a trip? Oh, that's fun. And then she paid attention when people talked. She listened. She got to know her team, right? They started to build that relationship, that trust. Fred did the opposite. He skipped the catch-ups. He thought they weren't important. He jumped right into meetings. He didn't think the small talk was important. He multitasked during meetings. He didn't pay attention to anything. Fred didn't care about his team. Couldn't give a damn. Amy fostered collaboration. She knew she didn't have all the answers, right? This one's important. She didn't lead with no. I can't tell you how many times engineering teams will come to an idea. I can guarantee you what's going to make them hate you more than anything else is if you're constantly telling them no. If you're constantly shooting down their ideas. I got news for you. The engineers have brilliant ideas. They have wonderful ideas. They are also very smart people. They might not know about color theory and topography and things like that, but they are very, very, very smart people, and listen to them. Don't lead with no. She shared credit. When someone came with an idea, she gave them credit for it. She was a team player. Fred fostered division. He thought he had all the answers. He shot down ideas. He took all the credit. He didn't play well with his team. Amy fostered communication, right? Clear, concise. She didn't use buzzwords. When talking about UX research, she didn't use to throw out words like ethnographic research and, service blueprints, all these things that nobody that's not a UXer would know what these things are. Talk about process map. Everyone knows what process map is. On-site research, observation. People know what those things are. She asked questions. She listened. She had an open door policy. Come to me. You got something? I'm here, right? Fred over here, he fostered silence. He talked in circles. He talked over people. He made people feel stupid. He used words the teams didn't know. He was a know-it-all, right? Amy fostered agility. She picked her battles. This is something that like a lot of UXers have like a really hard time with, right? Pixel perfect. Everything's gotta be pixel perfect. I guarantee you, Jan doesn't give a damn about pixel perfect. What Jan cares about is that the app works and it works well and it's easy to use. She doesn't care about being pixel perfect. Amy was willing to change her process, right? Something didn't work. She's totally fine with changing it, right? She worked closely with the engineering team. She didn't let perfect get in the way of the good enough. That's something Jan cares. Jan wants good enough. She doesn't want perfect. If you let perfect get in the way of the good enough, guess what you're not going to ship? You're not going to ship a good product. You're not going to ship anything. So Fred fostered stagnation. He fought everybody all the time. He was rigid. He was inflexible. He passed spec sheets over the fence. Hey, here's a red line specs. I hope you build it right. That never works. Trust me, it never works. You sit down with your engineers and you talk with them and you go over stuff. You might find out that like the thing you designed was really hard to build. Right? You pass a spec sheet over, they're just going to guess. And especially if you're like Fred, they don't want to talk to you. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to figure it out on their own, and you're not going to be involved with it. And it's just going to ship, and you're going to be like, "What is this?" You're not going to see it until like 2 weeks later when it's in production or on a sprint review when it's too late at that point. He couldn't see the bigger picture, right? Amy saw the bigger picture. She saw the forest for the trees. She's like, I'm not going to win this thing, but I'm going to find something that's really important to me. And I threw them a bone today. Somebody's going to get my back next time. So Amy fostered trust. She delivered her work on time. She set right expectations. She took responsibility when something didn't go right. She didn't blame somebody else. She had integrity. Fred over here, old Fred, knucklehead Fred, fostered doubt. He delivered his work. He delivered work on his time, right? I'm the UXer. I know how long this will take. It's not going to blah 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 blah. He took work he couldn't finish. He just like, I got everything. I could take it. I could do it, and then he didn't get it done. Shifted blame. People couldn't count on him. His team couldn't count on him, and they stopped asking him for help because they couldn't count on him anymore. This is something that a guy named Jared Spool, who if you don't know who Jared Spool is, I encourage you to go out and find him. He's like kind of one of the grandfathers of UX design, up there with Nielsen Norman and those guys. He's got this concept of UX literacy, and I agree with this completely. One of the things that Jared Spool says is everybody on the team is a UXer, right? They might not be UX designers, but they're UXers. Everybody on the team cares about the users. If they didn't care about the users, they wouldn't be building software. So everybody on the team cares about users. They just might care about it in a different way, and it's up to us as UX designers to make sure that they care about it in the right way, right? So color theory, accessibility, things like that, following the all those laws that we use all the time to make sure we're building great apps. She shared those ideas. She didn't work in a silo. She included everybody on the UX activities, right? When she did research, when she did ethnographic research, she took her engineer, she took her product owner, and they found the same findings she did. She shared those findings with them, and she showed the value of UX. And it's not about Amy, it's about UX, right? So everybody, if Amy left the team, they would understand now the value of having that UX designer. It's not about just liking Amy. It's about understanding the value of UX. Fred fostered ignorance. He didn't care. I'm the designer. I know what I'm doing. He worked on his own. He kept activities within his UX team, didn't share them, kept the findings to himself, and nobody knew why any decision was made, right? That's the thing. If you have an engineer that's making a decision, then you understand why it's important to do it a certain way. Don't put that button on the left, or it's got to be on the right because blah, 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 I don't know, whatever other reason we put the buttons on the right, but these are the reasons why we're sharing these things. We're not just holding those in. Everybody needs to understand why we do the things that we do. Right. So here's an example. Jan gets the app that Amy built. It works. She's really happy. Jan's better off because Amy got along with her team. At the end of the day, this is what matters. It's not about us. It's about the users, right? As UX designers, this is another thing Jared Spool said. Actually, it's like, as UX designers, or as a software team, we should be building things that make someone's life better. We should be building things that make someone's life better. And if we're fighting with our team constantly, guess what? We're not making anybody's life better, right? This is Jan using the app Fred built. Lots of bugs. Not happy with the experience. She's suffering. Jan is suffering. She can't do the stuff she wants to do with her medication. She can't track it. She's worse off now. just because Fred thought he was better than everybody else. Didn't get along with his team. Right? So I would ask you this. Do you really care about users? Do you really care about your users? Do not be like Fred. Be like Amy. Amy is really easy to get along with, right? All right. Remember, deliver better software with better relationships. That's the idea. That's the key. So that's it. I actually finished. I talked really fast. I tried this the other day and it was 27 minutes. So I apologize. I ended a little bit early. But anyway, that's it. Anybody got any questions, any thoughts?
Great. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Throughout the entire presentation, we've been getting comments from people saying
cool.
that yes, they have worked with a few Freds in their day. And as also a person who has done a bunch of team projects, I can also relate. But yeah, for now, if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, whether it be on this presentation or I'm sure Jeremy's willing to talk about his experiences in the field as well.
For sure. I'll stop sharing my screen since I'm
yeah, totally. While people are typing out their questions or coming up with them as they think about all the great information you provided. I guess a question we could pose here is, how would you tell us a little bit more about kind of like what got you into the position that you're in now, and kind of
relationships. No, because I mean, I'm joking, but that is kind of the idea. I mean, so once you get past, I don't know, everybody in their career has like a different goal, right? I mean, some people I think want to be an individual contributor and just design stuff and just leave me alone. I want to design stuff. I know for me, designing something was great, little pieces here and there. But eventually, everybody kind of wants to get up to the product designer where they have like a or lead a team, things like that. Yeah, so for me, it was like the next logical step was putting the Figma down, putting down Sketch, and just letting somebody else start doing. People have great ideas. I've been doing this for a long time. I feel like I'm kind of just like, I don't know, my design is just kind of like same crap every time. I do it work. So I feel like let somebody else come up. Let the people who are better at their craft do their thing. And as an architect, it is really about relationships and building relationships, because it's about connecting dots. It's about having conversations with people, hearing things, and be like, wait a minute, that sounds like this thing over here. Have you guys talked? Maybe you guys are working on something similar, or that sounds a lot like this feature that we were designing for this other application. I work over a portfolio of apps at GE, so we really try to encourage reuse and componentizing things and micro apps, microservices to share things. So I'm like, that sounds like something someone over here is building. Let's make sure we're doing that. We're sharing this, and that kind of stuff. I work a lot with product designers, so I have product designers for each of my applications that I'm over, and we have regular one-on-ones. We talk every single week. We talk for 30 minutes. We make sure that we are on the same page. We also have like a regular catch up every 2 weeks, like kind of like a scrum of scrums almost, where we get everybody talking about things that they're building so everybody understands. And it's about that kind of fostering stuff, but product designers are really busy. If somebody doesn't try to go and have them talk to somebody else in another application, they're probably not going to do it very often. And so that's kind of what the architect's role is making sure those things are consistent, making sure that, as like product designer A, product designer B, if they're designing similar components that maybe we can't componentize and reuse, at least the interaction is the same. The label and the copy on this is in this sort of voice. We want to make sure it says a similar thing over here so that people aren't using them and getting them confused. We want to use the same vocabulary over and over. And, two UX designers might design two completely different, sentences that explain the same action. And we need to make sure those things are consistent. And so as a UX architect, I mean, you can't do this job without getting along with people. Because I can tell you, I've been in this role, in the product design role, working with people who were sort of they weren't called architects, but a similar role. And it's like, God, screw that guy. That guy's such an ass. I can't, I don't want to talk to him. I think if you want to progress in your career, I mean, these principles in general, I think apply even outside of work, outside of building software. I mean, this is how you get promoted. This is how you find. This is how you network. This is how you find other jobs where you might make more money and have more responsibility. These principles definitely apply, outside of software specifically. So anyway,
Great.
that answers your question, I guess. I hope it does.
Yeah. We actually got quite a few more questions in the chat. We got one from Diesel. Is the ability to delegate a big part of what separates an Amy from a Fred?
I don't think so. I mean, I think you could be both. You could delegate some of those things and be an Amy. You could do it yourself and be an Amy. We talked a little bit about delivering on time, but it's not about delivering on time if you have a lot of stuff. It's about setting right expectations, like saying no when people try to give you too much stuff, and saying, like, I would love to, but it's not going to happen this week, this sprint. We're going to have to wait for some other time. We're overworked right now. I think the ability to delegate is certainly part of this. Like, a lot of these principles would apply to that. I mean, you've got to be able to communicate clearly if you're going to delegate, set the right expectations, and things like that. But I would say you don't have to do that. I think you could do this delegating or be a kind of individual contributor kind of thing.
And then our next question is from Christine. I'd love to have Amy's only in my team, but what if I'm stuck with Fred and must find a way to work with him?
I think those one-on-ones, those regular check-ins, the empathy. The question is, why is Fred like he is? Does Fred know that he's, is there some way to influence Fred to maybe stop acting like Fred? I think if you were to maybe talk with Fred, have one-on-ones with Fred, get to know Fred a little bit better, Fred would probably open up. And if Fred opens up, then you're maybe able to even influence him to stop acting like Fred. So I think that's what I would try. If Fred is just like a giant toxic jerk, it might be time to talk to the managers and see if there's some kind of like HR can come in or something. But I think there's certainly people who are just very focused on work. This is something I didn't touch on here, but we all have different relationship types. There's a lot of different tests that you can take. The Higgs boson, no, that's like a particle, isn't it? That's like some physics particle. There's like the Higgs test, I think. There's the DISC assessment. There's a lot of these things, and there's different personality types. There's this one I'm thinking of, where the DISC assessment has a D, a dominant personality type, and they're very to the point. They're very matter of fact, and they come across a lot of times as jerks. But it's about communicating with them. It's about communicating the right way. They don't like people wasting their time. They don't like people talking in circles. Just get to the point. Send me an email with a bullet list. The top 3 things you want me to know about. You don't write like 18 paragraphs and expect me to read the whole thing. So I would say if Fred is just really difficult to work with, maybe there's a point where HR needs to step in. But I think there's a lot of stuff that you can do to just get to know him. Try to open the shell, crack that shell open, and maybe he'll come out of his shell. Maybe that's just his personality type. There's one thing that a boss of mine did a while ago, and it's hard to do because this stuff costs money, but there are free assessments that you can take online. Is he had everybody do a personality assessment, and we had a group meeting where we shared our different personality types. So we all knew, like, I'm more analytical, so send me, if you want to convince me of something, send me data and back it up. I'm more, relationship driven, so befriend me before you try to make me make a decision. I don't know, so that could be helpful if you're, but I don't know, at the end of the day, you also check, maybe Fred doesn't need to be working there. Maybe Fred needs to find another job.
Great. And then our next question comes from Emmy. She says, thank you so much for your talk, Jeremy. One question for you. What advice do you have for designers when communicating design decisions with engineers and product managers / fostering those connections?
So there is an amazing book I would encourage everybody to read. This. It's a very short read. It's called Articulating Design Decisions by, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Articulating Design Decisions. It's one of those O'Reilly books. It's got a little parakeet on it. It's an amazing book. I mean, it's like, it's what I like about the book is it's got a lot of tactics in it. One of the things that they talk about is communicating those one-on-ones, like explaining your decision. It's not about just like I'm the designer, so listen to me. It's this is the reason why we're doing it. Back it up with data. If they're engineers, they probably want to see the data, right? So if you're trying to convince them to change the layout of a page, show them why. We did a usability study and it failed every time. So we need to change this thing. Or, the page loads slowly, so we need you guys to fix it, or whatever it is. So I think product managers, engineers, I would say like data probably should back it up. Sell the value of componentizing things, perhaps sharing reusable components, things like that. The other thing that I found communicating design with engineers is getting in a room and like whiteboarding with them, talking them through it and showing them various options and how you got to a point where you got. With product managers, a lot of times it's about budgets. It's about delivering things on time. We have a wonderful idea. Maybe it's the best idea in the world, but we don't have money for it. We don't have the people. We're not going to be able to build it. We're not going to be able to ship it. So it doesn't matter how good it is. So product managers and things like that, they might have very different reasons for making decisions that they do. But I think that's where this empathy part comes in. Get to know them and understand what constraints are they under. Why are they saying no? Are they saying no because they don't have the money? Are they saying no because they don't have the budget? Can you work with an engineer and find a way to make that thing quicker? Can you find a way to do it faster? Can you guys work together to find some other process that gets to the same end and solves the same problem, and present that to the product manager? I would encourage everybody to read Articulating Design Decisions. God, what is that? Let me Google it real quick. Can't believe I'm forgetting his name.
We threw it in the chat. Tom Griever.
Tom Griever, yes. Anyway, I can't believe I interviewed him for my podcast. I totally forgot his name.
And he also threw the link into the chat.
Yeah, there you go. Cool. Yeah, anyway, awesome book. I would recommend everybody to read it. A lot of great tips in there, and that would probably answer it in more detail for sure.
Great. And then Kristen also has another question. So I want to be like Amy every day, but sometimes Fred's side comes out from me. How do you manage to be professional like Amy all the time? Sometimes I just need my alone time and work on my own. And I also
it's part of those relationships, right? I mean, everybody has their bad days. I think for me, I like to schedule time. I have 3 hours every week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 to 3 scheduled for me, just to like do what I got to do, whether that's design, go to the gym, go for a walk, do whatever. It kind of helps me to just de-stress a little bit. I think there's nothing wrong with being Fred. Sometimes, we do have to sell the value of design. We do have to be kind of blunt, but I think, if the difference between Fred and Amy is that Fred's like Fred all the time. Our two personas here. Fred is like Fred all the time. Let's say Amy has some Fred days, but for the most part, Amy is not Fred. So I think you're fine if you're worried about that. I think it's just one of those things where you're just never working on those relationships. If you're trying and you feel like you are like Amy most of the time, 4 days, 3 days out of the week, I think you're doing better than a lot of people. I think the thing I would say, the things I would never do with Fred is leaving teammates out of UX activities, things like that, not sharing your ideas, not sharing your findings, making sure people understand the value of UX. Those are the kinds of things that I would recommend never doing. And those shouldn't be hard. If you're doing it all the time, it shouldn't be something you're doing sometimes and not others. The saying no, just like being I have all the answers, that whatever. That happens sometimes, but I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, and going back to an earlier question, you mentioned that if someone and a Fred is being very difficult, we should go to HR. So Kristen would like to follow that up with asking if seeking help from HR is it awkward? I guess a follow up for that one would be
a lot of times it's approach it. I mean, why would it be awkward? I mean, that's what they're there for, right? Bigger companies have like an ombuds person, where it's all like secret and nobody even knows who reported them and stuff. I mean, it shouldn't be awkward. I mean, if somebody's doing something to where you feel like you have to go report them to HR, why would you feel awkward about that? I don't know. To me, that's like something which is just like I don't know. I guess I can't. Don't be awkward. Don't feel awkward. Just do it. If it's bad enough to where you have to go tell somebody, just tell them. Tell the people that you need to be told. Managers, HR, whatever. Document it. If it happens more than once, start writing it down like it happened on this day, and get a list and bring that to HR. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but don't feel awkward. That's their job. And if you have an ombuds person, even better. But not every company has that.
Yeah. Jessica did ask what the name of your podcast was. We did pop it in the chat. We believe Retro
Right on.
Time podcast, but if
Yeah,
you want
retro
to talk a
time.
little
Yeah,
bit more
retro.
about
Yeah.
that.
It's fun. Yeah, it's me and my buddy Derek, and we just talk about stuff. It's good. We did actually interview Bob Martin, who's one of the guys who signed the Agile Manifesto a couple weeks ago. That was fun. Anyway, yeah, retro time. Like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
I guess one question that I have, especially as a business student,
Mm-hmm.
is if you had any kind of experiences out of curiosity, like when you're working with more business centric people, what are
Mm-hmm.
some kind of like challenges you face? Is there kind of like a disconnect between, you know, more of the design side versus more of the business side? Because I know from a business perspective, we are a bit more focused on the financial side of it, and we kind of
Mm-hmm.
want statistics and data versus kind of like being more flexible with design. So just out of curiosity, you know, any experiences you have with business centric people, and how would you address
So
those kind of
UX, I mean, here's the thing: the difference between UX and art. UX is not art, right? There's no reason to build an app if it's not solving some business need or some need of some kind or making money or something. I mean, it's not art. It's, you know, we're not just making it to hang it on our wall. We're designing a thing to solve some business problem. At least, you know, most of the time. You know, not every app, obviously, but you know, enterprise software, especially if you're working with business people, you're probably in enterprise software. So, as UX designers, if we don't understand the business that we are designing for, we're not doing our job. And so, if like GE Aviation, for instance, I know more about commercial airline operations now than I ever did in my entire life. Um, and so I understand how a jet engine works, at least in theory. um, I never would have thought, but I mean, those are the kinds of things like you have got to talk the business talk when you are designing software, because if your designs do not solve that business problem, you're not doing your job. And I think a lot of times people don't take UX designers seriously because they think we're just, you know, oh, designing crayons or something, designing pretty pictures on a page. And if that's what they think we're doing all day, then we're also not doing our job correctly, because we should be, you know, as Jared Spools says, we should be, spreading UX literacy. And you can't spread UX literacy and if you're not speaking the language that those people expect you to speak. Um, you know, um, we said avoid buzzwords and things like that. But when I'm thinking about like, you know, business, it's about, you know, what is the business exist? How does the business make money? How can I help save the business money? How can I, streamline work that I'm designing for these employees? You know, how do I make their life better? But at the same time, it's how does making their life better will essentially make the company more money, right? If I'm making their life better, they're less stressed out. They're probably happier. They're probably more efficient. They're probably working faster. They're probably getting more things done. They're probably not asking for stuff all the time. And so making their life better ends up making the company more money. But you can't do that if you don't understand the business that you're working in. I think one of the things I would say is if you are a UX designer and you are in a field that you don't understand, it's part of your job to figure it out. So at the end of the day, I guess what I would say is when you're talking to those business people, there shouldn't be any kind of conflict, because you should talk the talk as much as they do. That's the goal, at least. And it always takes time to get there. I mean, keep in mind, that's something too. Like, those people using all these business terms and everything that they're talking about didn't do it overnight. When they started the company, they didn't start with all that understanding and knowledge. It took them time. So, you know, what I would say, if you're having trouble with people like that, have one-on-ones with them. Ask them what they think you should know. What are the things that I don't know that you think I should know? What are the areas that you think I should focus on to help add value? You know, how can I bring value to this team? What are some things that I might have areas that I don't know that you think I should really explore? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you so much. That definitely clears some kind of like disconnect between what people think UX designers are versus what they actually do. I guess one more, just out of curiosity, what was your personal favorite project to have done?
Oh man. So at GE Aviation a couple years ago, the app, I'm not on the app anymore, but I was working the lead UXer on an application that was used by our MRO shops. MRO stands for maintenance, repair, and overhaul shops. So if you think about what a jet engine, they're basically these, it's just like a car. Airlines buy a jet engine or jet from Boeing, right? And that engine or that jet comes with a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed every once in a while. So every however many hours they need to do checkups. They need to take the engines off and send them to a shop and have them inspected and repaired and things like that. So GE, we make a lot of our money through selling essentially warranties. You buy a Ford or something and you buy the warranty and you can take it to the shop, and the idea is we charge you more money for the warranty than it costs us to fix the thing in real life. So we make a lot of money through that. So we have these network of shops all over the world: Singapore, Wales, Caledonia, Scotland, McAllen, Texas, Cincinnati, Selma, Brazil, Hungary. So they're all over the world. And I was building or helping to lead a team who was designing the software for the shops to enter data like dimensional checks. They measure parts and they might need to flag it for like a nonconformance or something, and there's a whole process that has to happen. So that was like I had a team. We had 8 pods, about like maybe 10 people each. So 80 engineers, QA people, front end, back end developers. We had at the highest point, we had 6 designers, which was cool. I was leading that team, and I had people in California, New Orleans, and Hungary. So I was getting to travel for work all the time, and this was before I had 2 kids, so it was nice. But I got to go to Hungary, which is beautiful. If you've never been, it's a beautiful country. Singapore, I got to go to Brazil, McAllen, Texas. Anyway, I got to travel quite a bit, and going to the shops and just seeing like the giant engines. It's just like an incredible thing. It's just like magic to me. The way the technology that we've come up with to build these jet engines, it's just like it's magic. Like how does this fly? How does this thing like fly across the sky at 500 something miles an hour, 50,000 feet in the air? It's incredible. So I was doing that. So that was where I kind of had to struggle a little bit actually with this whole relationship thing, like building relationships, especially remote people. I was in New Orleans at the time. I had a designer in California. I had designers in Europe. And the time difference just between us was like 8 hours. And then we had plus 3 or 4 for Pacific time in there. And getting people together and getting them working as a team, it was like so hard. It was so hard. So I learned quite a bit there. But that was just such a rewarding experience, man. Just, I don't know, designing something like that and seeing it like being used in the shops is pretty cool. That was pretty great.
Great. That project sounds super fun.
It was awesome. I miss it a lot.
The travel experience also sounds like a pretty cherry on top.
It's great when you're young and single. We actually, I last time I went to Europe, this was like I had 2 kids at the time. So it was like right before COVID. This was November of 2019. When did COVID? November 2019. And we went to Poland for 2 weeks. I went to Warsaw, and I traveled with one of my UXers from New Orleans. And by this time, we had transitioned our team from Hungary to Poland. Anyway, so we went to have like a workout for 2 weeks in Poland, and I was like just tired. I was like went to sleep, but like my coworker who went, she was like I guess like 28, 29, and she was out every night. She stopped with her boyfriend on the way home. They met in Germany for like an extra week and stuff. So anyway, that kind of stuff. I miss that. Young and single is great. Being old and married is not. Oh, not traveling when you're old and married is not great. Being married is great.
Yeah, we have one more question. It is from Jessica. She asks, you seem to have a lot on your plate as a designer for a larger company, being an ADPList mentor and hosting a podcast. How do you manage your time and maintain work-life balance?
Yeah, it's all about prioritizing. So for ADPList, if you try to like schedule me, I'm probably mostly booked up, mostly not because I'm doing mentoring, but because I have meetings all day. So I hook up my Google Calendar to ADPList so that like you can't schedule something when I'm not available. So I honestly I only have like an ADP mentor, like maybe or mentee like maybe once or twice a month. So that doesn't take a lot of time. The podcast thing, it's actually just like an hour or two a week. So my buddy and I would just chat, and we record it, and that's it. So the work, GE is actually awesome because we do have like really great work-life balance. And working remotely, it's about just setting expectations too. Like I'll be honest, I work at night and weekends sometimes. I mean, I have like a lot of stuff. Like I meet most of the time during the day, but then like I might be like writing a research plan for something, and I might do that at night while like my kids are watching TV or something. Or mixing down the podcast like at midnight, trying to like release it the next day. But yeah, I mean, it's about setting expectations and not taking on too much. I mean, there's sometimes when we don't release a podcast for a couple of weeks because I'm busy. So, it's just again setting those right expectations and not taking on too much, and not being able to do the things that you said you would do. So, and also too, like I said, I have those 3 hours every week I schedule for myself. So like, it's just like keeping you sane. Like go for a walk. Like I get my every Friday, my wife and I go to lunch. Just without the kids yelling and screaming at us because they're in school. So it's nice. We get like a little date every week. It's just again setting expectations, knowing when to say no, That's important. And not overworking yourself, taking time for yourself. I probably drink more now than I ever have in my entire life, though, which is probably something I shouldn't do. But in moderation, everything in moderation. Don't start drinking, by the way. That was bad advice.
All right, great. I think we about wrapped up most of our questions. If you have any, please put them in the chat now. Otherwise, Jeremy, thank you so much for your time. Do you have anything you want to plug? Any kind of wrap up thoughts you want to?
Yeah, I'm gonna put together a list of like some tools, some tactics that I think have been useful for me. One of the things that I'll leave this with you guys. We didn't even talk about it because I feel like this would be like a workshop kind of thing, hands-on. Maybe like we could schedule something later. Maybe we can do like a group mentor thing on ADPList, but a relationship map. If this is something you guys have never heard of, this is something that's like really cool. I think Tom talks about it in his book actually, where you list out everybody that you work with, right? And you like what do they like to work with? Are they difficult, easy? What are some things that you know about them or don't know about them? What are the things you want to know about them? What are they good at? How can you help them? How can they help you? And mapping all that out. Like, how does this person work with this other person? Are these two people like allies? Are these people that I should get in good with that group and help influence a decision there? So the relationship map, that's something that I want to throw out there. You could just Google it and see there's probably a ton of templates that you can find. So that is really important. I would check that out. And we talked about the podcast. I don't need to plug that again. But yeah, so and ADPList too. Actually, I'll plug ADPList. If you want to do mentoring, mentor session at any point, please feel free to find me and schedule some time, 30, 45 minutes. I'm happy to help you with portfolio reviews, talk through some problems you're having at work, maybe. I don't know. So hit me up there. And yeah, I don't know. That's about it. Just don't miss the small talk. The small talk is really important. It's the last thing I'll leave you with. That's it.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're just plugging in the ADP list right there. I think Evie just sent a link there. So
cool.
If you guys have any more questions, feel free to let Jeremy know. Otherwise, thank you again, Jeremy, for taking the time out of your weekend to come talk to us. We've learned a lot. Relationship building is definitely very important. It is something that universities could do better at teaching. But.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, you could do like a whole series of courses on this stuff. Better to do it now than when you actually get a job and start learning the hard way. But yeah, it's definitely I guess the other thing I would say, we got like a minute, is just like don't sweat it. It's just like one of those things. If you mess up with somebody, you say something stupid, or whatever, you insult them by mistake, or you didn't, just keep going. It doesn't matter. Life's too short. There's always a chance to make it better. Just keep those one-on-ones, keep those catch-ups, and I guarantee those people will forget about it. So
Thank you again, and we'll see you at our rest of the catalyst. All right.
Right on. Thanks, y'all. Take it easy.
Thank you.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Stop recording.